It's the Morning Brew with Elle Dawson and Gillian Robertson. Brought to you by Fight Bananas.
Good morning, guys. It is Sunday. It is the Sunday Morning Brew with yours truly and the savage Gillian Robertson. How you doing today, G?
I'm doing good. Not the best night of fights last night, but there was a couple good ones in there.
I felt like overall for an Apex card, it delivered. Like there were some really fun, obviously maybe not the highest level fights, but there were definitely some really exciting fights. Even the co-main event with Julian Marquez and Cody Brundage had maybe not the most technical exchange, but an incredibly fun exchange there at the end with, we thought Julian was about to get the finish. Mark Smith stops the action and has to give both guys back their mouthpieces. And then obviously continued with Cody Brundage getting the comeback. But I thought it was super fun to watch. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. That fight was definitely, I guess, the most exciting because you're this close to Julian getting the finish. Like Brundage, the way he dropped looked scary. Like he dropped and he dropped hard. And then he was able to rebuild, get back up. And then, I don't know, I'm a little bit like torn on whether I like that like stoppage to give the mouth guards back. I understand it's a necessary thing that needs to be done. It was just like, it also like broke up the flow a little bit,
Changed momentum. Yeah.
It was like the Alex Bahia Jamal Hill thing, like the argument behind that. It was like right after the stoppage that Brundage got the knockout,
Yeah.
Like Julian threw one punch and Brundage threw the first punch Brundage threw was the uppercut that caught him. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, did it just mess up? Like, was Julian in a flow? Like, if he would have kept going, would the fight have turned out that way? Like I said, I understand it's something that was necessary that needs to be done. Both of them didn't have their mouth guards, but it was also, they didn't really have like a clean break in action for it to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you, especially with it being so close to the end of the round. Would it have been terrible for the last 15 seconds to go without mouthpieces? I honestly don't know. Obviously, I know it does a lot to protect our teeth, our jaws, and even our brains to some extent to have the mouthpiece in when you are taking damage. But I agree with you. I do think it kind of broke up the flow a little bit. So I wonder what it would have looked like had we seen that not happen. But good morning, Christopher J. Welcome. Guys, let us know in the comment section what you guys thought. Obviously, had a lot of these Apex cards here early in the year. For the most part, they have been fun. This is probably the least good fight night so far of the year because we had a killer fight night just last weekend with just insane amount of finishes, which we still got several finishes on this card. We got a few. A lot of decisions, but some fun decisions. We had Sam Patterson had a huge knockout over Danny Barlow in a fight. Obviously round one, but I felt like he was not looking great in the 3 minutes prior to the knockout. And Barlow seemed to get a little bit overconfident with being able to walk down Sam Patterson and just not respecting his power and just got clipped,
Yeah, I feel like when he got caught was when he got reckless. He was coming forward, just kind of like recklessly throwing hooks. And then Sam Patterson came in with a short hook, was able to catch him the first time, and then I think he finished him with a right hand after that. Yeah. But it was like, he was just, like you said, got a little cocky, got a little too confident. And I feel like went in there reckless. But another great finish was the main event of the prelims, Austin Lane and Pinto.
Oh my God, that was a scary knockout.
Oh yeah, no, that was like how he was out was, like you said, scary. It was hard to watch.
No, I agree. Like that was wild. Especially, I don't know, there's just something about a guy that big falling hard that like makes me just like flinch a little bit. Like the weight just falling down. I'm like, somebody's gonna blow out a knee just by falling over, being unconscious at the same time. But no, that was a nasty knockout. Good morning, Jake. Thanks for joining us. Nasty knockout from Pinto. Great knockout from Sam Patterson. Honestly, some fun decisions too. Obviously, Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics, I think, is fight of the night in everybody's book. It was super close. I got to be completely honest. I'm not sure I agree with the decision. I thought that the damage that Ribovics landed at the end of the third was enough to win him the third round, which obviously one judge did agree, but I felt like the way Nasrat's body, like just his what's the word I'm looking for?
Like he had spaghetti legs. It's like it gave out on him a little bit.
I feel like he was he had him hurt a couple times. It almost looked like even earlier in the fight, Ribovics had Nasrat hurt and didn't realize it, because he would like hurt him and you'd see Nasrat kind of like, he did a good job covering it up, but he looked like he was a little bit hurt, even in the first round as well, where it was like, and then Ribovics didn't seem to like capitalize on it or like go after him. And I was like, I wonder if he can't tell in the moment. I will say this with the judging, Nasrat did a really good job with this just high guard. And it did look like, even though Esteban's output was insane, it looked like the vast majority of the punches were landing on the guard. So maybe that's what the judges saw. How did you score that fight?
Yeah, I definitely, obviously a very close fight to score. I think that I saw a lot of that where it's like it was Haqparast seemed to be able to handle Ribovics, like I guess like defensively. So he was doing very well there. But I feel like when Haqparast was landing, then those shots were like the more, I don't like, he was landing clean right hands. There was sometimes he was like snapping Ribovics' heads back with those right hands. So I'm like, I don't know. It's a fight that I'm cool with it going either way. You know, I'm like, it was a very close fight, but I don't know. I think it's one of those ones that it's just like, it is hard to score. Mini Kelvin, exactly.
Yeah. I think I'm not upset about it. I did think that Esteban had it at the end. But yeah, by no means am I upset at the decision. I think it was an incredibly close fight. I felt the same way about the fight right before that as well. Nasrat, aka Mini Kelvin Gastelum. Yes, 100%. Fight winning streak. I don't know. I think Nasrat probably needs somebody in the low rankings now. I don't know. There's this guy that doesn't have a fight. His name is Grant Dawson. Let's see that happen. I'd love to see it. But I think Nasrat. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think watching that fight, that's one thing that I was like mind blown by, which shows the depth of that division. Neither one of those guys are ranked.
I know. Dude, lightweight's just stupid. It's stupid. And next week, is it next week? Yeah, next week we have 3 lightweight fights on the main card of a pay-per-view. That's how many lightweights there are. and 2 of those guys on that main card aren't ranked either. Wait, one guy is. Nope, neither guy is ranked. And between Green and Roofy, right?
No, I don't think
fight. I'm all for it. Some support. Get Grant's wife some money.
Exactly. The priorities here.
No, anywho. I would love to see that fight though. I think it'd be really, really exciting. I like a guy with a high guard against a good wrestler, but you know, I think he's a very underrated guy too. I think Nasrat is a good notch in someone's belt that people don't necessarily give him that credit for, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like I said, I was surprised both these guys weren't ranked. I feel like Nasrat is a very skilled fighter. He every time I watch him win, it impresses me, you know? Because I'm like, I feel like he is very good defensively, stays in position very well. I believe Dean mentioned it during the fight, but he brings his feet with him very well defensively. So he's always in a good position. So I feel like it's something that I guess you don't see a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And another thing Dean mentioned as well that I think was spot on throughout the fight, and this may have been what lost Ribovics the fight. Nasrat was able to just stay here because Esteban was just solely attacking the head.
Yeah.
While you saw Nasrat like level change, go for the body, and really, really press as well while using that high guard. And he was able to because Esteban was just headhunting the whole time. His kicks are so good too. And he very rarely kicks to the body. It's all high. And so I would have liked to see him mix that up a little bit more.
There was a fight a little bit earlier where I'm like, I feel like he looked very good defensively, mixed it up great. Kape Mariscal.
Yeah.
Looked great last night. Was just like flowing. He was going for heel hooks. He was going for takedowns. He was going for everything. He was just flowing in MMA, which I think is such a beautiful thing to watch.
And question for you as a BJJ black belt. We saw 2 fighters, including Kape Mariscal, get their black belts last night. What the Kape fight, there was a little bit more jiu-jitsu happening. What are your thoughts on people getting their black belts after a fight that is not very jiu-jitsu heavy, in your opinion?
So both those fighters were from the same school as well. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if like the coach just planned it for both of them. He had them both on the same card, something. But yeah, with JJ's fight, I was a little bit confused with the black belt.
Kape, at least there was some jiu-jitsu exchanges. Like in the first round, it was mostly defensively on his part, I think. But there was some, like you said, that 50-50 guard, back and forth, like him and Ramos both going for leg locks. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of jiu-jitsu happening.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about getting a black belt in general in the cage after a win or something. You know, like I don't know, that just, I don't think that's like a proving moment of you deserving a black belt, or you know, like, so I don't know. I feel a little bit weird about it in general. Definitely in a fight that's like you said with JJ. I don't think they ended up on the ground for maybe like 10 seconds. I think JJ got a takedown on the first, and that was it.
And
you
then
know,
she got out of the guillotine in the third.
yeah. So I'm like, minimal time that they were really on the ground to like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird thing to me. I feel like it should just be something done in the gym, or like, even honestly, Dean gave me mine. It was like 2 weeks before I fought Poliano Botello, and it was just like in the hotel room in Abu Dhabi. Like, he was just like, hey, you need this now. But it was like, I feel like that's how, I don't know. It's a private thing. It's not something to, yeah. I don't know. It's weird to me to do it in the cage.
I'm kind of with you. Like I said, they get to do it on TV. I get that, but it's like, it's not an MMA thing though.
Yeah.
Like, it's a jiu-jitsu thing. It's really like they're 2 very different, very separate sports. They're phenomenal sport jiu-jitsu guys like Crone Gracie, who have not translated very well to MMA, and probably vice versa too. There's a lot of MMA fighters that might go and do a grappling match against a high-level jiu-jitsu guy and not necessarily do as well. Because they are 2 different sports. So I'm kind of with you. It's a little weird. There's a few moments where I'm like, that was pretty cool. Like Woodley got his after he subbed Till. That one made a little more sense to me. Like, you're the champ. You got a sub win. Okay. Like, I got you. But yeah, I was very curious your perspective on that. Good morning from Terry. Oh, carry on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like you said, jiu-jitsu and MMA are such different sports. Like, I always tell people, I'm like, I'm an MMA black belt. I don't consider myself as a jiu-jitsu black belt. I probably am, but I'm not like a world-class jiu-jitsu black belt in any capacity. And like, I will rep that confidently, because I'm like, these girls train that 24/7 while I'm working on wrestling and striking and MMA as a sport and putting it all together. So I'm like, I'm probably like, I think I am a jiu-jitsu black belt, but I'm definitely not like high level competing black belt, because it's just a different sport completely. If I go with these girls, they're going to roll on my legs and I'm going to have a torn ACL real fast.
I think, I can't remember who it was. Somebody from the UFC did a jiu-jitsu match against, maybe it was Cynthia Calvillo, did a match against Danielle Kelly. And it was like the shortest jiu-jitsu match I've ever seen. And she was on the leg like that. And it was incredible. Like,
well, speaking of Cynthia, just a little shout out to her here. I thought this was pretty badass. I think she posted it on her story this week. She's never really trained jiu-jitsu traditionally before. She's been able to compete against black belts because of her name in the UFC, but she's never actually like had a belt in jiu-jitsu. So this week she got her blue belt.
That's crazy. I literally would watch when I first started fighting. I loved watching the way Cynthia Calvillo would take the back and attack the back, even without hooks. Like, that was like one of my number 1 watched pieces of film, was watching Cynthia Calvillo grapple, who apparently has no formal jiu-jitsu training at the time. That's a fun little fact.
Yeah, I'm like, I saw that she got her blue belt this week. I was like, that is so badass that like she's going and she's putting her time to like earn the belts like in the right way, instead of just like, a lot of times MMA fighters are just like, here's your black belt.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely more proved if you're competing in high level jiu-jitsu. And if we look at across the UFC, there's not a whole lot of people. Maybe Gilbert Burns is probably the guy that's competing the most in like high level sport jiu-jitsu, but it's not a whole lot of guys are doing that.
Honestly, like I said, I'm not willing to anymore. I used to. I
Right.
used to a lot. Now I'm not because the game is so leg lock heavy. So it's like if I go into an MMA fight, chances are the worst thing that really happens to me is I get a cut and I'm out for like 20 days. If I go into a jiu-jitsu match, which I'm getting paid a lot less for, then I tear my ACL and I'm out for a year. I'm like, it's just not worth it to go into jiu-jitsu matches at this point because it's such a leg lock heavy game. I'm like, it's just, and like, that's all these girls are working on. Like, they focus on it 24/7. Whereas, like I said, I have all these other things I'm focusing on. Jiu-jitsu is just kind of like a side quest, you know?
No,
So
for sure.
I'm like, I stopped competing. Like, I'll compete against other MMA girls in
Right.
jujitsu, but I won't compete against jujitsu girls because it's just too high risk, too low reward right now.
No, that makes sense. And you'd have to train in a different style to even be competitive, I feel like. So it just takes away from what you're working towards at the moment. So it
Yeah,
makes sense.
I feel like the sport, like with the like evolution of leg locks and everything, the sports just went in two different directions completely. Where sport jujitsu and MMA are now just two different worlds where they used to be a little bit more of the same place.
Yeah. No, I agree. I 100% agree. We have a few comments I want to pull up here before we move on from Shepe. All right, so Shepe, this says if Bryce can get past Silva. I don't know where you're at on this, Gillian. I think we never see Bryce Mitchell again after the Gene Silva fight, personally.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the Fight Bananas podcast earlier this week. I don't know. I'm torn on that because like I said, I do think that the UFC is open for free speech, even though he is saying a lot of things very, very out there. But he also does get a lot of attention. He is a big personality. So I'm like, it could be good for marketing still. So I'm like, that's I guess, where I'm torn on it. I feel like the UFC knows that people want to see him get beat up right now. So that's why they're setting up this matchup.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
I think, I don't know, I'm excited to watch it. UFC Miami's stacked right now.
Yes, I know. I was hoping Grant could get on that card, but maybe we can at least go.
Yeah, that's
give the Dawsons tickets.
I know that they let you know like last minute if they're gonna give you tickets. Like it's literally week of you get the email and they're like, okay, yeah, you can come.
Dude, I don't think we've ever gotten tickets. Ever. We've asked like every Florida card, but
I've gotten tickets like I think 2 or 3 times, but any big card I've gotten denied for tickets.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's ever gotten, which I guess usually the Miami cards are pretty stacked. So that's fair.
When the last UFC Tampa card, I'm like, it was like a fight night. It was a good night, but it wasn't like a huge card. I'm like, those ones are the ones they give me tickets for. I was telling Sean, I'm like, I wonder if I'm cool enough to get tickets now for UFC Miami. Last year they denied me.
Well, if you get tickets, tell them they should give Grant and me tickets too. Who do we want to see on UFC 400? That's so far away. I don't even know if we're going to know what fighters are at that level, you know? Like, what are they each? The 100 cards are like, what, like 10 years apart?
Yeah, I'm like, that's too far to even be like, who are the names going to be that are relevant at that time?
Like the high-level people now are all going to be retired, probably, or at least on their way towards retirement. Like, I feel like it's going to be people we haven't even heard of yet. You know,
I think it was the Connor and Dustin card that Dave pulled it up a couple of weeks ago. He said that Duplessis and Volk were on. I think it was Volk Duplessis and Topuria were like the first 2 fights on that card, and it's like things like that where it's like it's going to be names that you would have no idea, you didn't expect when you watched that Conor McGregor Poirier card that these 2 guys are on it, and now those are like the big names.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre to see, and that like Alex Pereira wasn't even doing MMA at UFC 200. Like no one knew who he was, and he was like there at UFC 300. Like nobody even knew. Like I don't even know if he had really like taken off in kickboxing yet at that time. Like that was ages ago. So it's wild. I don't think we can even imagine what that card is going to look like until we get much closer. But I definitely want to pull this up because we're talking about jiu-jitsu. No, absolutely not. I do not want to see Alexa Grasso use more Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I want to see her get up off her back.
I think for strikers, they need to learn MMA jiu-jitsu. They don't need to learn how to do an armbar, how to do sweeps, how to do an omoplata, whatever. They need to learn how to create space to get up. And like I always bring up Max Holloway when I think of this. I'm like, you don't think of him as like, oh, he's got great jiu-jitsu, but I'm like, nobody can hold him down. He's always able to defend takedowns, get back up. He has the like perfect game for a striker for an MMA style that doesn't like you don't need to develop a whole jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like submissions off your back, like once you've been taken down. I'm not including guillotines. Guillotines are totally separate thing. But like arm bars and triangles off your back are the lowest percentage of probably all submissions in MMA.
I think you just have to be I just think you have to be higher level to even like, I don't know, attempt those kind of things, think those kind of things. Like I've trained jujitsu since I was 16, you know, it's like things like that are like, it's easier for me to implement them into my game versus like, I don't like someone like Alexa Grasso, who's primarily a striker. And now she's going to go back and trying to learn like day one gi jujitsu. I'm like, I trained in a gi 8 times a week for like 5 years, you know, where it's like, I learned all that stuff and now it's in the back of my brain and in a fight, I can pull it out. But I'm like, it's pointless for her to go and try to put all the time and effort into this at this point in her career. It's just too late.
Yeah. And you pull it out when you need to. It's not your plan A. Like all the highest level jiu-jitsu people in the UFC are not they're not purposefully trying to sub people off their back. They're using it if they need to. But like Gilbert Burns, Charles Oliveira, Gillian Robertson, all you guys are trying to be on top and do damage and take the back. Like that's the primary. Like I know you have some arm bars off your back as well, but I feel like when you're fighting, your typical game plan is to get on top and do as much damage as you can, right?
Oh, even that I have one arm bar off my back in the UFC. In the UFC at least. I think majority I want to say I have 5 rear naked chokes, 2 arm bars, one was from on top, the other one was from on bottom, and then 2 TKOs, I believe. But yeah, it's primarily rear naked chokes, primarily positions where I'm on top. My game plan, like this is why, honestly, why I'm falling into TKOs now more than I am rear naked chokes, because girls are refusing to just like try to give me their back. So I'm like, they'd sit on the floor and get punched in the face rather than give me their back, which I'm cool with too. But like you said, it's primarily top game. It's primarily like, I don't want to be on bottom, or it's like, it's not a strong game plan to stay on bottom. I'm comfortable on bottom. I can work on bottom. I'm like, I have honestly in my fights, a lot of times if you see girls put me on my back, they are running from my guard. I'm like when I fought Tabitha Ritchie, even when I fought Piera Rodriguez, she tried to back out of my guard, and that's when I got the sweep. Tabitha Ritchie would take me down, then run away from me because I feel like my guard is a very dangerous place. You know, I'm always threatening sweep, submission, strikes, regardless. I'm trying to work from the bottom, but I'm like, I'm very comfortable there, but I still don't want to be there. It's not the game plan.
Exactly. So it's like, yes, it's a useful tool, but it should never be your like go-to. Even like Mackenzie Dern is not it's like a last ditch effort, you know, like, okay, I haven't gotten this person down, I'll pull guard, you know? But yeah, should not be your primary game plan. I agree. Let's move through this card some more. Sorry, we this is what Gillian and I do every Sunday. I feel like we are very long-winded, but we love this shit. So, we talked a little bit about the main card. We haven't even gotten to the main event yet. So let's definitely talk about Manel Kape. I think he was absolutely the star of this card with the way he fought a guy as credentialed as Almabayev. Obviously, there's some controversial surrounding the TKO, some eye scrapes. I don't really know if I should call them pokes. It didn't look like his finger went into his eye like we saw with the main event last week. So 2 main events in a row with eye pokes. That's something else. But I feel like it may have changed the trajectory of the fight, but it is hard to say because obviously Kape looked incredible throughout all 3 rounds that we did get to see. So your thoughts on the stoppage, the TKO, the eye scrapes, all that jazz?
Well, like you said, Kape did look phenomenal. I think that I don't know. I think it was the eye scrapes, like they weren't necessarily, like you said, it wasn't like the week before. We weren't seeing fingers going directly into the eye. It wasn't yet for me. I'm like, as a fighter, if you're like just scraping the eye, you have to just continue. You can't be sitting there calling for timeouts. It obviously, like, he was getting very much shut down in his game plan the whole fight too, where it was like, I feel like he wasn't setting up his takedowns very well. He was kind of just like shooting, like it looked like a wrestler shot where he was almost making it easy for Manel to see these takedowns, where he was just shooting from far, not really setting them up with strikes very well. Manel obviously was on point, capitalizing on it all. But and well, I guess going back to the stoppage too, I'm like, that was probably the only part where I'm like, it's very confusing of the fight for me. I don't understand that stoppage or agree with it. I don't know. It seemed like a fighter who was attacking, like he was in on a takedown and it got stopped.
It was weird. I agree. I feel like when he decided to stop, it looked like, oh, okay, it's a good stoppage. But then once he like actually got his body in between them, Almabayev had started to like wrestle off of it, because he had taken a lot of shots, and the way he was running away, I had a problem with from like a ref's perspective. I don't know if you can turn away like that and call it intelligent defense. But then immediately after that, he was like ready to wrestle on it. So like, was he out? Probably not. Was he intelligently defending himself? Also, probably not. So I kind of agree with you. I think he could have let it go a little bit longer, but I also understand why the ref made the decision he did in the moment with Almabayev's body language, especially following like him essentially just running around the cage from Kape, for quite a bit before that.
Yeah, I definitely think the visual before didn't look great, but it's hard when a fighter is attacking back to say that, like, I'm like, that is intelligently defending yourself when you are shooting a double leg to initiate the next move, initiate the next attack. So I'm like, that's the only part where I'm like, he was attacking. I don't think it was a fair stoppage.
I wouldn't have minded to see it continue. I wouldn't. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, like it should have been stopped. I wouldn't have minded to see it continue. And honestly, I don't think we would have seen anything too different. I just don't think Almabayev, like, he did better as the fight went on, but he wasn't making big enough adjustments to deal with Kape. And I think, like, to credit Almabayev, I agree with you. I don't think he was taking good shots, but I think that was really just the way Kape was fighting him. He's so rangy, he's so long, and he gets so low with it, but he still fights long, which is it's really beautiful to watch the way he feints. And Almabayev was not feinting at all. So I think maybe if he had brought in some more feints, he could have had like some better setups, but he was just kind of standing in front of him, and Kape was making him bite on absolutely everything. Like, he almost gets to the point where it looks like he's going to shoot. He's so low. And then he comes back up and kicks or punches with it. It's really incredible.
Yeah, that low head position, I'm like you said, it almost looks like he's going to shoot. It scares me for if somebody throws that head kick. I'm like, that's all I was hoping. Well, like, for Almabayev on his part, I'm like, just toss out that head kick on that side. His head was so low and like in a almost dangerous position, but obviously he's able to utilize it well. And I feel like he was able to like spin off it a couple times too. But
I think he's just so fast. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
so fast. And I think, as you said, incorporate more feints. I feel like Almabayev was throwing, it was almost like one strike at a time. Like he would throw like every once in a while he'd throw combinations, but it was like power strikes. And then when he shot they were almost like just naked shots, like nothing before him, just shooting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it was interesting to see, like, compared to the first fight of the night, we saw another tall, rangy, explosive, athletic flyweight that was not pressing the action or using his feints against another shorter, stockier guy that was throwing more looping punches. Like, similar styles, different, levels to the sport, of course. But like when we watched Tamirov, the way he fought Charles Johnson, I think Almabayev could have benefited from some more explosiveness, heavier pressure, and some more feints as well. Because it was definitely similar body types. I wouldn't say necessarily they have the same styles, but similar body types in both fights, you know?
No, exactly.
Tamirov honestly looks phenomenal. I definitely expect him to enter the rankings. Man, my thing with I love Charles Johnson. I'm actually a really big fan of the guy. And my beef with him is this dude just cannot win a round one. Like if Charles Johnson could win the first round, he might be undefeated in the UFC.
His third round, he came out looking clean. I was like, why haven't we seen this for 3 rounds at this point? I'm like,
right, man. Every fight.
It's just, and honestly, it's a curse for a lot of fighters is that slow start. I'm like, I feel like I'm breaking it a little bit, but I've had a very tough time of having slow first rounds. I'm like, if you look at my record, typically you see I have second round finishes. I'm like, I'm always finishing the second round because my first round, I'm like, I have a little bit of a slow start. I have to find like my rhythm a little bit. And it's like, it's something I've been working on very hard, but it is something that's hard to break, that slow start.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's dude, he might be the best third round fighter in the UFC, pound for pound. Like he always comes out and looks so good in that third round. And I'll be honest, I thought the second round was quite close. Like I thought it was very clear Tamirov in the first. Second round was close, probably edge to Tamirov, and then the third round was all Charles Johnson. So it's it's such a I can't even, I don't even have words for it. I just wish he had more oomph earlier in the fight because I think he's a really talented guy. I also have to comment on the evolution of his hairstyle. I feel like it was just like right here when he first got into the UFC, and it's like growing up, like starting to cover more of his head.
It was him, and then Barlow later in the night had like the same kind. He had braids down the back, but essentially
just in the back.
Yeah, just the same kind of. I was like, oh, he's like essentially the same as Charles Johnson, just braided up. Like,
I can't tell if he's balding on top or if it's a good choice. I love how Dominic Cruz said it. He's like, it's a very interesting style. It's like he has hair, but also no hair.
I hope that it's a choice. I hope he chooses that. That's all I'm saying.
For his sake. Anywho, we have a great question from Mike. How close to a title fight would Jessica Vicious be with a win in Montreal over Jessica Andrade?
I think she still needs at least one more big name under her belt before she can get a shot. So I think she needs like, I don't know, somebody top 5 in that division. I don't know who's up there right now. I'm trying to think, but
got the rankings pulled up. That's what I'm here for. Okay. Women's flyweight. We have. I
think her and Blanchfield would be an interesting fight.
I actually like that a lot because I think Blanchfield could wrestle with her. And it's Blanchfield, you know.
Actually, I think she's been calling for Blanchfield, I want to say too, since she beat Fatima Klein, and Klein and Blanchfield are teammates.
That's right.
She's been kind of using that to try to parlay it into the Blanchfield fight. But I think that would be a good fight to kind of be like one before the title shot. And then I think she deserves it.
No, 100%. I think that's perfect because she is number 9 right now. Jessica is 7. Erin Blanchfield's 3. And then above that is Manon Fiorot, Alexa Grasso, and then obviously Valentina. So like Fiorot's about to get her title shot. Should she win or lose to Valentina, that ties up Alexa Grasso is coming off the loss to Valentina. So that ties up those 3 fighters anyway. So if she gets Erin Blanchfield after that, the winner of that would get the next title shot. So,
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, one fight and she's ready to go. We will touch on this. I don't want to talk too much about last week's fight, but we will touch on this because Christopher J brought it up in the comments. I like to shout out referee Jason Herzog for admitting to Henry Cejudo that he made a mistake, should have taken a point from Song Yadong for the eye poke. We need more referees being accountable like Herzog was. I do think Herzog is the GOAT of referees. Grant really likes him. I don't know if he's reffed a whole lot of your fights, but he does seem like he is very invested in the fighters. I was kind of on the fence on this. I was leaning on Team Cejudo last week, but I am kind of over it now.
No, I think, well, to start, Herzog is the best ref in the game. He's black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in judo, understands the actual sport more than just like, sometimes I feel like fights are called too quick because people don't understand what a choke is if a person's in a choke, how it like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, that's a Darce. And I'm watching and I'm like, no, he doesn't have pressure here. That dude can still breathe. And they call the fight and then the fighter's mad. But Herzog knows that because he trains the sport. He understands. So I feel like and honestly, I'm like, if you watch the way he, like, even with the Cejudo thing, he's like, we'll get you a cold compress for your eye. Like, he like handles situations so perfectly, like knows how to just, he's like the calm voice in the arena. Like, all right, we're going to do this. You have a full 5 minutes. Here's a cold compress. And it's like just so relaxing, so calming. I feel like Herzog is the best in the game. This whole clip about Cejudo having to call him, and I'm like you said, I'm over it. I feel like just take your L and walk away, dude.
He's
like
doing
that's
too much.
Yeah, just take your L. Like, you don't need to be like putting Herzog on the spot like this on your podcast, whatever. I'm like, just it happened. You lost, whatever. I'm like, I've been on the side of decision, or like had fights stopped that I didn't want stopped or whatever. You know, like I've been in a fuck situation too where refs, I've been like, oh, why'd the ref do this? That like, I'd never said anything about it. Took my L, walked away. That's it. I'm like, that's what you got to do in these situations. I don't know. I'm over here in that.
No, I'm with you. I'm ready to move on from it. Love Cejudo. I think he's a legend. All the best to him. Let's put this to bed. I am interested to see if we do see more eye pokes come back. I don't think the gloves make too much of a difference. I do think it's easier probably because it curves your hands downward. But like you said, you've never poked somebody in the eye. Jim Miller says never poked somebody in the eye, and the dude's has hours of octagon time. So we'll see. We'll see what the future looks like for eye pokes. But good morning.
Yeah, I don't think the gloves necessarily make a difference in like eye pokes or not. I'm like, I don't even think the new glove, whatever the
new old gloves,
yeah, whatever they are. Neither one of them help stop eye pokes, period. Like, I feel like putting them on, my hands feel the exact same. I'm like, I don't see any difference in either one of them. Like, they're very similar. I don't think it has anything to do with the gloves if there is or isn't eye poke. So with how they're made right now.
Absolutely. Fair enough. We will put goggles on fighters' heads. This might be your best comment. Your username is supposed to say CXMS. Anywho, so we'll move on. We're putting UFC Vegas 103 behind us. I thought overall, give overall A through F your rating for UFC Vegas 103.
Say like a C, maybe.
I'm gonna give it a C plus B minus. I thought the fights were really, maybe not name value wise, but I thought the fights were really fun. My one beef is I do think, as much as like Brundage and Marquez are vets in the sport, I do feel like Ribovics versus Nasrat should have been the co-main over the middleweight fight. That's my only like primary beef with the card. I thought it was pretty solid.
That's exactly what I thought, even looking at the whole card last week. The only fight I was looking at was the Nasrat and Ribovics fight. So I'm like, I feel like it was confusing why it wasn't main event and co-main to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. All right, we gotta move on and talk about this. Gillian sent me a post this week from our most loved, talked about topic here at Fight Bananas. The GFL has announced a fight between Tony Ferguson and Dylan Dennis. The fight we were all waiting for. Or not. Your thoughts, G?
This one I'm actually genuinely interested in watching. Like, the other ones they've announced, I'm like, it's just two old guys going at it. This one, there's something about it that I want to see.
I just want to see the press conference.
I think it would just be, I think the fight would be hilarious. I think the press conference would be hilarious. I think everything around it is just an absolute spectacle. Of course, we still have no date or location for any of these fights, but that's absolute, like, I don't know, a spectacle of a fight.
Tony Ferguson, like, get so breakout. We don't want Tony to retire with a loss to Dylan. I agree. I agree.
This could be the win that he needs.
It
Dylan,
honestly is a winnable fight. The size maybe?
Dylan Danis has, I
Bigger,
think
right?
Dylan has like 1 or 2 MMA fights at this point. He has no experience. Tony's coming off of 8 losses, but like with all the UFC experience he has, he may have a little bit of an upper hand here. I'm like, this may be the win that Tony needs to end his career.
What's the line on who pulls guard first? What's the betting line on that?
Tony's gonna be throwing sand first.
I don't know. I think Danis is gonna pull guard first. That's my bet for the fight. Anywho, I'm tuning into that. I'm sorry. Do you ladies think the GFL is going to work? Half their roster is retired. I have no clue. I just hope that they get at least through 2 cards so all my friends can get paid. That's and I will say this, I have heard, I don't know if it's announced or if just the fighters know, they've at least told them cities that they're fighting in. I don't know if I can say where those are, but I do not know if they have venues, just cities.
Yeah, I think it's I would be very surprised if they have their first card. That's where I'm at right now. I don't believe it's true.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I just want my friends to get paid. I'm sure you do too for Hannah. We disagree here, Chris. I absolutely want to see this happen. I want to see the lead up. I want to see the press conference, and I want to see whatever bizarre thing happens during this fight because there's going to be something bizarre.
Oh yeah.
We can agree to disagree on that. I want it to happen. Anyway, that's the primary big news, I think, in the world of GFL. I haven't seen a whole lot else since we talked last week. However, in the MMA world, there has been a stir on TikTok due to this video that I will be adding.
Marab just auditioned for our music video.
Hello, I am Merab Dualishvili.
That's the bit.
UFC bantamweight champion, and I will be auditioning for Who We Are music video. And I love dancing much as I love fighting.
What the hell? Yo. What? That what?
I'm the artists. I'm with them. I have no words. But I will say this: if Marab is not in this music video, I will be so disappointed.
I showed it to my boyfriend yesterday and he was literally crying, laughing. I'm like, exactly what you said. If these people don't put him in this music video, that is the biggest mistakes of their career, period. That was an absolutely amazing audition. And two, I'm like, the fact that Marab even went through the audition process, like he could have easily just saw this band needed somebody for their music video and texted them or like had his manager text them, be like, hey, I'm a UFC champ. Can I be in your music video? But no, he put together a whole dance routine, filmed this video, and to audition like any normal person would do. I'm like, it's just absolutely amazing. I honestly, Rob and his personality have just been shining in this last year, and I absolutely love it.
He's like MMA's own personal Snoop Dogg. Like all the side quests, just like he's everywhere in all the best ways.
Okay, and like he's always involved. Like I saw a video this week of him like next to a mosh pit video taping it, just like laughing. I saw there was a video a couple weeks ago that came out of him like watching fights in Vegas and like, oh, this is crazy out here. I'm like, he's just always doing these like side quests in the most like insane situations. Like he just always finds the chaos and it's hilarious.
He's everywhere. He was literally cornering at Contender Series the Tuesday before his title fight. Like who does that?
Exactly.
He's everywhere. Everybody loves Marab. The comments agree. I don't think I've ever seen anybody hate on Marab, to be honest. It's like you just look silly. He's such a likable guy. We'll go back to GFL for 1 second for your comment, CXMS. It's taking superstars. I agree that they're superstars, but you cannot tell me a roster where the average age is 36 and a half is not taking old fighters. Henan Barao is on there. Some of the fighters are not old. A handful of them are not old, but a lot of them are.
I just feel like with a lot of these names that they already have, like the UFC popularity or whatever, they're like the GFL might catch the attention of people who are like really into MMA, like just they're like, like they've been watching this for years. They might be curious about it, but they're not going to put on good fights overall. Like the quality of the fights isn't going to be good. Like watching most of these guys who are like Verdum and Frank Mir isn't going to be a good fight, Like, so
it has a lot of star power, but I don't think it's going to be super fun to watch.
But it's not something that's going to, like, people are going to watch and be like, oh, this is good. I want to watch another one of these shows. Like, it's not going to continue to bring people in. It's just people who, it might bring in some of their old fans, but I don't think it's going to bring in like a huge demographic of people.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's like it's going to be really nostalgic for a lot of MMA fans. And a lot of us are going to tune in. Don't get me wrong. Like, we're not going to not watch these fights. Like, we're still going to tune in. But I think there'll be some good fights. I think they have a handful of young talent that maybe just didn't get signed to the UFC because of weight classes, like some of these atom weights. But overall, yeah, I agree. I'm actually love that Will Brooks got his shot. I think Will Brooks got a raw deal with some of these major promotions. I think he's a really talented guy that didn't deserve to get treated how he did by a lot of these organizations. So I'm stoked to see him back in a major organization. I think there's guys like that still have a lot of talent. Marlon Moraes still has a lot of talent. But the vast majority of the roster is quite a bit older. It is.
And I just want to say lastly to shout out to Karate Combat for their show on Friday night, I believe it was. They had Cowboy Hayo. I can never say his name.
Hayo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had him versus Brendan Allen as the co-main event, which was super interesting grappling match to watch. A week after Brendan Allen was just fighting Anthony Fluffy Hernandez in the UFC. Puts on a great fight. Hayo really just looks like an overall technician on the ground. So that was a really fun match to watch. And Robelis Despangane got another, it was like 2 or 3 second knockout. So he's had 3 fights with Karate Combat since he's left the UFC, and they've all been like under 30 seconds.
That's nuts. He is built for Karate Combat. He's one of those guys that just his style and his skill set just didn't really cut it in the UFC, but he has absolutely shined in the pit. Like, I'm really happy that he's found his spot. And I think it's interesting too, because I think there's a lot of guys whose style probably isn't made for MMA, but will do really well in bare knuckle, in the pit, at Karate Combat. So it's been fun to see them kind of build their own sport.
One last comment. I don't know why this is so true. Let me see. I don't know why it's not letting me click it. Oh, there we go.
Is SpongeBob Squidward Paulo Costa?
Something about him does kind of look like a SpongeBob Paulo Costa.
I kind of see it somehow. I don't know what it is, but
somehow that's true.
I don't Yeah, I can't see that now. I'm gonna have to go back and look at pictures of Caio Palio. Thank you for keeping us on our toes today, CXMS. Oh my gosh.
On that note,
we were going to preview UFC 313. We'll touch on it really, really shortly, but then I got to get out of here, and I'm sure G does as well. I'm going to the Renaissance Fair today. So pumped.
That sounds exciting.
Giant turkey legs. That's all I'm looking forward to right now. Anywho, all right. UFC 313 this weekend. We have another pay-per-view. Poatan finally fighting Magomed Ankalaev. I think it's a fight a lot of us have been waiting for. We want to see Pereira take on this test. So your prediction right now, as of right now, we can obviously change and get into it more Tuesday, but just immediate prediction for Ankalaev versus Pereira.
I think it's Bahaya's toughest fight, but I'm still siding Bahaya. I don't know if it's a bias thing. I love him, and I think Ankalaev is his toughest fight because he's obviously going to wrestle him, and I think that obviously brings issues for Bahia. But yeah, I'm still siding it. I think this last year was so impressive for him. I'm like, it's hard for me to deny him right now.
I'm kind of leaning with you too. Here's my thing too. Ankalaev swears he's not going to wrestle. He says, I'm going to knock this guy out. He might be full of it because why wouldn't you? At least you need to mix it up for a guy like Pereira. But I also I don't know. I feel like Ankalaev sometimes waits a little bit too long. He's been in some of these drawn out fights, like with Jan Blachowicz there wasn't a ton of action. It wasn't the most exciting fight. And then obviously ended with the draw. I feel like he said both. He said he's not going to wrestle. He said he will wrestle. The last I heard, he said he's going to strike with the guy for 5 rounds and knock him out. So we'll see. He may come out and immediately shoot. But I feel like Pereira tends to just do more. He's active. I think when his shots land, they land a little bit bigger than most guys. So I feel like it's going to be a super close fight, but I'm leaning Pereira as well.
And then obviously with a lot of toss up in the co-main event this week, we finally ended up with Gaethje versus Fiziev.
I know there's a lot of lightweight drama on the streets. Gaethje, obviously we're all bummed to lose the Gaethje Hooker fight. That was going to be a banger. Gaethje Fiziev 1 was a blast. It was a fantastic fight. I don't think 2 will be any different. I think we're still going to get a banger of a co-main event. I thought it was very interesting. Gaethje tweeted about all the people who turned down the fight, but I heard that there were at least one name that was brought to him that he said no to. So I'm going to be writing a little article on that this week. So keep your eye out for that. And there's been a little bit of lightweight drama on X over the last few days with people responding to Gaethje, Arman saying he wanted to take the fight, but they wouldn't offer him a catch weight, and it was too short notice for him to make lightweight, which is understandable. Fiziev saying nobody wanted to see Gamrot in there. We've seen all sorts of beef. The only person that hasn't been talking about it on X is Moicano. And I asked him, I was like, why? You're the only one not on there. And he's like, no, I'm on my YouTube channel. They can see what I say on my YouTube channel. I was fair enough.
Yeah, I even saw Dustin defending himself a little on Twitter, saying because Gaethje said he was offered the fight as well, and Dustin was like, I said yes. The UFC just has I guess different plans for him currently for what they want for him next. So I don't. Everybody seemed to be a lot of names thrown around. A lot of people chimed in, but like you said, Fiziev versus Gaethje, the first time was awesome. I think the second time is going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a banger. Maybe Gaethje will shoot a takedown again. Maybe he'll have 2 takedowns in the UFC after this fight.
Maybe since Gaethje wrestled since he was 4. Maybe we could use a little bit of that.
Just a teensy bit. Save a few of those brain cells for after retirement.
Now, for I's sake, though, don't wrestle Gaethje. Keep on doing what you're doing.
I'm with it. I want to pull this up. Pereira has the best highlight reel, and he's only been in the UFC for 3 years. Honestly, yeah. That's wild. How do you ladies feel about a whole generation of fan favorite fighters, Gaethje, Pereira, retiring in the next few years? I think it's exciting. And also, I think we're going to have some divisions may have some dead spots. But I think that's kind of how MMA goes. Every division has their seasons. And I think lightweight is about to have a resurgence, because there are a lot of vets who are at the top of that division right now, like Chandler, like Dustin, like Gaethje, who are closer to retirement. And once those guys retire, I just think we're going to see these really underrated lightweights. Like we were talking about how Nasrat and Ribovics, phenomenal fight. Neither guy is ranked. I think we're going to see those guys start to flood the rankings because so many spots will open up at once. So I think it's a good thing for the sport.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I don't know, there's the sport goes on, the sport, last night we watched Dominic Cruz retire. At one point he was one of the greats in that talk of they showed like highlights of him and Uriah Faber too. Faber was part of that generation of legends too, you know, like all these guys, they were legends back then. Now they're retired. We had our new group of legends. We're going to see them retire. And then the next group is going to come up.
No, it's the way of the sport. Is it sad to see some of those guys go? Absolutely. But I think it's only good for the sport. Well, this is the last comment I'm going to pull up. Question for Gillian. If you dyed your hair any other color besides red, what would it be?
I've debated purple before. That's the only one I've thought about is going purple, but I've had it red since I think it was right before my 21st birthday. Yeah, exactly. Purple's the only one I thought about, but I've had it red for almost 10 years now. So
at this point, it's like, it's a staple. It's iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say it's natural.
Mom ate too many strawberries. All right, guys. It's a wrap. We've been going almost an hour. You guys asked for an hour last week. We did a whole hour. As Christopher J said, we did a whole hour. Thank you guys so much for hanging out in the comments with us on this lovely Sunday morning. We are going to get out of here. Tune in on Tuesday. We've got some guests. We've got some winners coming up with interviews. Winners from last weekend coming up with interviews all week. So we've got a lot of content coming your way this week. Dave and I are going to be working overtime. But Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, we will definitely be live. So make sure you're there. Appreciate you guys. I am going to find my button. But thanks, guys. We love you. See you Tuesday.
It's the Morning Brew with Elle Dawson and Gillian Robertson. Brought to you by Fight Bananas.